All right, so next week is Mission Sunday. And I don't know how many of you know, but the missions, our congregation has taken on a new mission this year. We've got exciting news to announce that we're going to start working in Malawi for the next year or so. We're going to take it on initially a little bit on a limited basis, but our goal is obviously to expand it into a great mission work. Actually, I think it already is a great mission work. I can get my clicker out here. This is where Malawi is located. It's in Africa. The country of Malawi is not a lot bigger than the state of Tennessee. So it says it's about 100 miles wide at the widest point, and it's about 500 miles from tip to tip. But there's 18 million people that live in Malawi compared to about 6.5 million that live here. So it's very densely populated. This work came about because Lawrence Redding does a lot with World Bible School, and he was grading a lot of papers or the lessons from people in Malawi. And I believe his mother kind of got him started with that section of World Bible School. So the more that they worked with it, the more they found out some more information, and he got to know Timplex as the coordinator in Malawi a little bit, and figured out that this was a mission work that's been going on for quite some time. It was actually supported by a church in Alabama to begin with, and it was really spearheaded by a lady here in Nashville. In 2014, I believe it was, she passed away. And since then, the mission work has just kind of been hanging on by a thread. It's been passed around from congregation to congregation to kind of, support, to kind of look up after, manage a little bit. And it really needed some stabilization. So Lawrence and Rita approached the missions ministry last year, said, hey, we really want to go over here, look at this, evaluate the mission that's going on and see what we can do to help them out if it's something that we want to get involved with. So they went to Malawi last September, came back with just on fire for the world. They wanted to pack everybody up and move over there, take our congregation with them, the whole works. And so they came back, approached us again and said, hey, we really think this is a valuable work. What do you think the congregation could do to help them out? So between talking with the elders and the mission ministry and Reddings, we've came up with the idea that for the first year, we're going to go in and we're going to support a few individuals over there, the coordinator and then his helper. Let's see, this is Winella, and he is actually the helper of the coordinator. Let me go to the next slide here. Okay, in that slide, you've got the guy in the green, which Lawrence says is not as big as he looks in that picture. His name is Timplex. And let me see if I can get these right again. Watson is next to him in the suit jacket. And then they've got a couple of individuals that were helpers while they were there on their mission trip. Zacchaeus is the driver, and the guy in the yellow suit there is William. And then Winera there in the middle, the lighter blue shirt. And then Pinjani is closest there to Lawrence. And Pinjani is actually supported by Mayfair Church. But they all work together to make this great work happen over there. So Timplex, the gentleman in the green there, is the coordinator of the whole program. Everything runs through him. All of their preaching, it really seems like most of the work is based off of World Bible School. They teach out of their lessons. They really encourage everyone to use those. Part of the issue in Malawi is transportation. You get your choice. You can either walk or ride a bike. Every now and then you can catch a ride in the back of a pickup or something. But getting to and from places is a process. Getting information relayed back to the U.S. is a process. Their computers don't necessarily work all the time. They don't have power consistently. So everything, it's definitely third world. It takes time to do anything. So in the process of this work being passed around, it's lost some of its funding. It's lost some of its effectiveness, I'm sure. And we really want to see it take off and thrive again. So what our intention is that we're going to help support 4 individuals. We're going to help support Timplex and Winella, which are the 2 that are kind of they've got a little building that they operate out of, or a complex. And that's where the whole country of Malawi sends in World Bible School lessons, and then they scan them all in and send them to individuals to grade and correct, and so that they can have interaction with their students. And then we're also going to support 2 preachers, Muya Tembo and Watson Sakuya. I believe that's the right pronunciation. All of these individuals have been involved with the program for quite some time now. The 2 preachers are, from what Lawrence says, are just phenomenal preachers. They do a great job. They work a lot in prisons. They have their own, smaller congregations and individuals that they work with, do lots of Bible studies, travel around. Right now, between Lawrence and Jerry Burgess, they're dealing with over 600 students from World Bible School, these two individuals. So if there's anybody out there that needs something to do during the day or in their evenings, I'm sure that if you get with Lawrence, he will help get you set up on World Bible School. They keep gaining, just multiplying. In September, they had 125 students, and now it's up over 600 just in that short time period. Okay, one thing that we'd love to do is we'd love to just jump in full force and be involved. But our congregation, our missions ministry, has established a set of rules of how we want to work with overseas missions. One of that is that we want to be intimately involved. We want to be very involved in that mission work. We don't want to send money someplace, have no idea what's going on. We don't want to have to figure out, are the preachers out really preaching? Is the money getting put where the money's supposed to be? If we send money for Bibles, are the Bibles actually getting bought and distributed? All of that takes a lot of time, effort, and needless to say, some money to do. So we're starting out slowly, and hopefully, shortly we can get more and more involved. This isn't like Honduras where we can jump on a plane and be there in 3 hours. It's a 23.5-hour flight, and that's on the plane. That doesn't count all the layovers in between. I believe I looked it up, and it was 32 hours or something travel time. And so it's not just a quick little trip to go check in on something. It's a whole process. Bibles are desperately needed over there. One of the prisons that they visited, Mazimba prison, had 2 Bibles in the entire prison. There's 500 prisoners. One of the Bibles was all tore apart. Rita said she didn't know if they had taken it apart intentionally or if it had just worn out and fell apart. But since then, we've sent over 169 Bibles so far, and we're getting ready to send some more over here shortly. And we're actually not sending them over. I say sending them over, but we're buying them in Malawi, and then they're being delivered, where they need to be delivered there. The number of people being baptized right now in Malawi is just staggering. The total for January and February was 77 baptisms in the 2 months out of this one little organization that we're working with. Last year, from September to the end of the year, they had 106 baptisms. 55 of those was during the 2 weeks that Lawrence and Rita were in Malawi. So people are definitely wanting to learn the Word. They're wanting to become involved, and they're turning around and spreading the Word themselves, I believe. Excuse me. Let me catch up with myself here. All right. So Greg and I were talking the other day, and one of the big things that we don't want to do is, or that takes along with the getting logistics set up, is learning their culture. We can go there. The first thing we always get when we go to Honduras is, do you guys speak Spanish? Well, no, not really. Well, how do you get around? Well, there's translators. You can find translators on every street corner. But learning the culture and learning how these people live, what their beliefs, their core beliefs are, their traditions that we have to overcome or encourage, whichever way it is, that takes a lot more time, a lot more effort. And the only way we can do that is by being there, being involved, visiting with them consistently. So hopefully in the next year or so, we're able to do that, get something set up so that we can do that. I believe Lawrence and Rita are planning a trip to go back soon on their own and, spend some more time over there. But I really want to commend Lawrence and Rita for the work that they've put in, the effort they put in. If all of us could see a need that we see every day and actually step up and do what they've done in the last 6 months, 8 months on this, it would just be so impressive. And it'd be amazing how much the church could grow. So I'm going to turn this over to Greg, and he's going to talk a little bit about Honduras.
Good morning, everybody. Eddie was so right in talking about how cultures affect people's thinking. All third worlds, especially Honduras, has its own way of thinking. And one of the challenges that we face all the time is where their culture impacts them so much that it affects them spiritually, because they think that culture overrides the truth of the scriptures. And that's something that's really important. I know, Italy, I'm sure they have their own culture and way of thinking. Africa is going to be the same way. So those are some of the things that we're really concerned about as we guide the churches that are there in Honduras and now in Africa. We're really excited about the work that can be done in Africa. It has great potential. And we're really blessed to be able to be a part of that. Next Sunday is Mission Sunday. It's $47,500 is our goal. I know that's a lot of money, but this church has always stepped up to the challenges that we have, and we really appreciate all that you do to help us to establish the money that we need for the outreach that we're doing. And you're a big part of that. Culture. I talked once before about language, how important it is, and I do not know all of the skills of the language of Honduras. But I'm learning the culture and have been learning the culture in Honduras for a long time. And it's amazing of how different the culture is. They have laws, they have rules about everything. But the first thing you do when you get to Honduras and you see them driving, they're driving crazy wherever they want to go. Wrong side of the road. They run stop signs, run red lights. I mean, you're just defensive. I mean, it's just every man for himself. But they have laws about that. And you can pull out in front of a police officer or pass them at a red light. They don't do anything. It's not enforced. To me, that's crazy. But that's their culture. And it's a funny thing about that. So the other day, I go into a bank, the bank there in Tegucigalpa, and this bank is huge. It's half the size of this auditorium, the lobby, and it's just as high. There's 2 lines in the middle of the bank. They're black lines. You have to stay on this black line. If you're 60 years old, pregnant, or handicapped, you can get in this line, and they have first service, right? So we're in this line. It's not polite to point in Honduras. That's a culture. You never point at somebody. What they do is use their chin and their lips. Where do you live? I live down there. So, just go down there and turn that way. So that's how they do all the time. They're doing those kind of things. So I'm standing in line with Suyapa, our director, and we're waiting. I have 1 foot off of the black line and the other one on the line. She says to me, guess what? You're going to be in trouble. I said, why? She said, you're not on the line. And I said, is that the rule? She said, that is the rule. And I said, well, who's going to enforce it? She said, turn around. There was a guy back there dressed like me in a suit, nice tie. Everybody said today, oh, your tie is great. He didn't say anything about me. But anyway, he's back there with his sunglasses on, and she said, that guy's going to come up, and you're going to be in trouble. I said, I don't believe it. So I stand there, and sure enough, a couple of minutes, this guy walks up to me, taps me on his shoulder, Senor, por favor. I go, okay. I move over. So I'm standing there, and then immediately a lady walks in the back of the bank. She's obviously 60 years old because she comes in. She talks to the secret agent guy that's back there, and they're exchanging pleasantries. And then she goes in and she stands over there in the line. And so I'm standing and I look down, and she's talking to her friend, and they're completely off the line. They're straddling the line. And I wait 2 or 3 minutes, and I look back at GI, secret agent guy, and I look at him, I go, and he looks at me and he goes, you see, in their culture, it's who you know or who you can pay under the table. You can get stopped by the police, and the law is you don't bribe police officers, right? But if you don't want to get a ticket and you're standing there, you can give them a little bit of money and you can get things done. It's very different to learn their cultures and the ways that they live. And some of this you can see playing out even at the border. Because when they have no rules and they don't abide by any rules, they can easily think that they can just break the rules at our border and come over. I'm not saying that's right at all, but that's how they think because that's the way they live. So when it comes to the church, we're always working with the preachers and talking with them and making sure that, when we need to preach about these things, we need to know what's truth and what's wrong, and that's part of the culture. So it's very challenging to work in cross-cultural languages. Okay, so enough about culture. Well, one other thing. Sometimes we can offend people and not know it, and we don't want to offend people. We were at a brigade, and Dr. Thompson was with us this a few years ago. He was with a lady, and she was complaining of a sore throat. And he checked her out and everything. And so he asked the interpreter, ask her if she's hoarse. Well, the interpreter didn't know the word for that, and he just said, do you have a horse in your throat? That's how he... And she was offended. This crazy... Of course I don't have a horse in my throat. And she got up and walked out because she thought he was crazy, So sometimes you can, not knowing things, you can offend people, and we try not to do that. Okay, some people ask all the time, how is Ambassadors for Christ split up as far as how much money comes in from Smyrna Church of Christ gives 30%. 30% of our money comes from the Smyrna Church of Christ. Individuals and other congregations, 70% of an average monthly income of about $17,500. Now, some of you are in that 70% if you're supporting children in our nutrition ministry. Today, I wanted to talk to us specifically about some of the work that we're doing with our nutrition ministry. You see, the kids that we support, and some of you support, these children come from outlying areas in the communities, and our preachers are the ones that recommend these children that come to the clinic for help. And so those children and their families, they come, and when they come, they receive medical care, they receive dental care, they receive Bible correspondence courses, and they have lots of devotionals. And the kids are involved in Vacation Bible School. It's a great program to help the children that are in our nutrition program. And they come, and they usually come in their best clothes. And we have been blessed lately by the Soli Foundation in Murfreesboro, where they've given money to support our children in our nutrition program, where they've provided school clothes for all of those children, all of our kids, which is a little uniform and shoes. And so we've been blessed by that. Another part of supporting a child is we give them a water purification system, which is a bucket with a really good filter that gets all the bacteria out and everything. But that costs quite a bit of money. So people support kids in our nutrition program from $35, whatever you can afford, to $70 to $105. That completely supports a child, because the food that we give them usually will support them for a couple weeks. So when they come to the program, it's also help. We have a lot of help to the parents. They have a lot of the women get a lot of counseling. The preacher does Bible studies with these parents. And so a lot of these things are very helpful to the families, and it's a very good program. Okay, so let me see what we got here. This is the preacher, Roberto Mineros. This is at a little village where he's preaching. And we were having a devotional there. There's some North Americans in this picture, but these are where our kids come from the communities. These are some of the kids at the clinic where they're having Vacation Bible School. And then these are some of our children in the nutrition program that have just received their new clothes with their new shoes, and they also receive school supplies, because if you don't have a backpack or your school supplies or your uniform, you don't go to school. And so that's been a really good blessing for us. This is Melvin studying with one of the ladies from the nutrition program. He's our preacher there at the clinic. It's full time. We have cooking classes that are available for our women that are the mothers of the. And Naomi's teaching them right now how to preserve vegetables, and it's in vinegar, and it's something that they do a lot of. They chop up the vegetables, put them in there, and they put it's like a slaw, and they use it on their tortillas and things like that. And it's something that they can easily do, and they can also learn how to do that and sell it. So those are some really good things. We also have some classes on sewing now, and also on making jewelry. And all of these are easily things that they can easily find and where they can easily go. Now, those kids come to the nutrition program on a regular basis, and I was there just recently, and I saw the kids and how nice they were dressed. And during the week, the next week, Cindy, our social worker, they were going to go out and do some social visits to 7 families of our nutrition program. And I said, it's been a long time since I've been to some of these homes. And I know how they live, but sometimes I forget, because they come in, you see them there, and you just kind of take things for granted. So I went out, and we started looking at some of the homes where these people were living. And I was so really depressed and amazed that they could live the way that they live. All the roofs were leaking. This house was way off the road. We parked way up on the highway, on the dirt road, and we had to walk about a mile to get to this house. They have no water source. They have no electricity. And this little girl is in our program. She walks 4 miles every day to school. When she gets up, she has to walk 4 miles. And so we went and we started looking at their home. I asked the wife, I said, what was something that you would really hope to have? She said, well, we really would like to have electricity. I'm like, oh, that's a little hard to do. It's so far off the road. But the roof is leaking. really bad. There's holes all throughout the roof. And that house, they had no table. They had no chairs. They had one bed that 4 people slept in. One bed. And then they had a little adobe oven that they warmed things with. But outside, they had this cage with these 2 pigeons in it. And Suyapa, one of our director, she kept talking to the man, why do you have those pigeons all caged up in that little cage? There's no food, there's no water, and they're just stuck in there. Don't you think they need to be free? And he said, well, that's our decoration. He said, that's what we use. We have nothing, but that's what we have. And so quite interesting way of thinking. This is one of their beds. This is what they do. They have a little bit of wood. They put strings on them, and then they lay a blanket on there, and they sleep like that. And 4 people on that. Roofs were leaking. A lot of this metal had been refurbished with a lot of holes in it, and that was one of the big problems that they were experiencing in these houses. Look at this house. Unbelievable that people live in these places. This is a little adobe stove there in concrete, and it was a little cool. It's up on the mountain, and so you can see the cats were warming themselves there by the fire. They only had coffee and a little bit of corn to eat. And I every house I went to, no food, no water sources. This is another one where there's 2 ladies raising their granddaughter in this little terrible place to live. I don't know what I'm doing there. I think I'm asking if they have chickens or something like that. I'm not sure. They're doing this. I don't know. But anyway, the preacher's there, and he's hugging on the lady that's the 2 ladies that live there, and it just kind of breaks your heart to be able to see the way that these people live. Okay, so this is a little boy. He's not in our nutrition program. We were at a place, he was next door. They don't go to school. He doesn't go to school, and his sister don't go to school because they can't afford uniforms to go to school. And his daddy had him out there working with the hoe, very young. And when I walked up, man, he was really, really chopping with that hoe and moving the dirt. And this is his sister. She was sitting over there. The parents were gone, which is most cases when you go out in these places, whatever they can do for work. If they're working in the field, they leave the kids. The babies take care of the babies. And she was over there just taking care of the young one while the little boy was out there chopping with the hoe. So another little house here. This is the boy that we were visiting that was in the nutrition program, and his mother. And we also have special needs children that are in our nutrition program that will, basically never get well. So we try to keep them and do the best we can to help those families. A lot of the clothes that people donate to us and go to our kids in our nutrition program or the hospitals. This is a little girl. She's a little sassy girl. You can tell by her face. But she has some new clothes right there, and she's really proud of that. These are some kids that are in the hospital. These clothes are made by the women here at the congregation downstairs. They've got a big sewing room. They do a lot of great work for us. And then we also have dolls that we hand out to the children. And also have dolls for little boys, too. So brigades are still doing a lot of the things that they're normally doing. This is some of our soldiers helping out with the concrete on one of the houses. We're still going to the dump and serving people there. These people live and try to help themselves by working in the dump. Okay. Through this process of going out and visiting these people this last time, we have a group that's going in June. A group from here. We have 24 people signed up. And going and seeing these houses and their conditions that they were in, I thought, okay, yeah, we give them food. We do some of those things. And but what can we do to spend more time or to be more intentional in helping these families? So our group is going to go back to these homes that we visited. We're going to be patching the roofs. We're going to be building beds and putting nice mattresses on them. We're going to be making chairs, or some we might buy, some plastic chairs. We're going to be making tables. We're going to be handing out Bibles. We're going to spend time with those families and get to know them better so that we can be more intentional in showing God's love to them. You see, Jesus did a lot of healing, and he asked for a lot of people to have faith in him and to show their faith, and they did that. But Jesus also healed just straight out of compassion because he cared for people and he loved them. And that's what we're trying to do. We want to go back. We want to be very intentional in loving these people to try to make a difference in their life to where they know that we're there for them and that we can help them. And I think it's going to be a really good thing. You see, you go to Honduras and you know that you're going to be doing things like that. That's why you go. You're going to serve. But you know, we should be doing that here as well. We too should get up every morning and say, you know what, I need to be intentional on something that I want to do. People might not be starving to death that we know, but people are hurting in so many different ways in our community. Losing loved ones that are very sick. All the things that life comes about that we could do to be more intentional. You see, I believe the churches of Christ are in decline. And it's because we keep doing the same thing year after year after year, but we expect a different outcome. I believe we need to change the way we think, that we need to get more involved in people's lives every day. Those at work that you can come in contact with, take them under your wing and let them know that you're there and that you're caring for them. These are some things that we're doing in Honduras. That's why we had over 120 baptisms last year. It's where you can get to people, to their heart, when they know that you love them and that you care for them. So I encourage us. I know that our elders are on this mindset of how we can do things in our community differently. And I know they're working on some things. And I think that we as a church, we really need to, when things are presented, that we need to be involved in that so that we can also help our community and bring more people to Christ. So grateful for the opportunities that we have. We're so grateful for this congregation and the way that they help us. And, you know, I was thinking about those pigeons in that cage when I was leaving that place. And I got to thinking, you know, those pigeons sitting in that cage was no different than those people's lives. They were cooped up in this little house with very little to eat, no water source, no electricity. They really had nothing to their name. And those two pigeons were living the same life they were. It's pretty amazing. A couple scriptures. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourself. Do what it says. We need to realize that God is asking us to be more intentional in our lives, to do what he says, to do not only here. Aaron last week talked about how important it is to know the gospel and to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is absolutely 100% right. But he also said to show your faith in action and to do things, to be involved. That's where you meet the needs of people and how they, become closer to God. Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best of the time, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. His will for us is to do what Jesus did. And he laid out a perfect example for us throughout his life, throughout his mission, the way he touched people's lives. we too need to be more intentional here at Smyrna Church. You're doing a great job helping us with missions, and we really appreciate that. And we also would like that maybe we do some things that are different here. This morning, if we have said anything that you need encouragement, if you want to come forward and have prayers of the elders, or if you need to be baptized, you can do this at this time.